Well, howdy meowdy, I am the Damn Cat Gaming, and I welcome you to another rebroadcast of GTRC's 2026 main championship, the GT3 series. This round was at Nürburgring GP circuit, and it was a it was a fun race. Some of us had more challenges than others, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But before we actually get into that, as always, we're going to go into how this series is set up. So to begin with, this is our calendar. As you can see, this was round 6 at Nürburgring GP, like I said. The next round will be in 2 weeks at Fuji. And that's going to be a fun one to watch. I'm pretty sure about that. I'm not really looking forward to that one because I don't like that track, but it is what it is. But anyway, this is our calendar. So we're through 6 rounds as of this recording. And yeah. All right, and this is our list of permitted cars. As I've said many times before, almost every manufacturer has a signed up representative. McLaren is the odd man out. Each race is 1 hour long. Qualifying for GTRC series is different than most. Instead of using the in-game qualifying mode, we instead will have a outlap and a set number of flying laps. In the case of this series, it is 2 laps. That's 2 attempts to set a qualifying time. And for qualifying and the race, tire wear and fuel rate are both set to 3x. This means for every lap race, there's 3 laps worth of tire wear and 3 laps worth of fuel consumed. Refueling rate is set to 8 liters per second, a fairly reasonable rate. Not too fast, not too slow. That's just right, and you have to allow for strategic decisions to be made regarding pit strategy. And like always, the weather is set to random. And so if we're at tracks where it can potentially rain could potentially be a factor. And at Nürburgring GP, rain is a possibility. And required tire compounds are required to use hards and mediums. Each compound has to be used for a minimum of 5 racing laps. And going into this round, we have Superboy holding the lead at 91 points. Maple Syrup or Ishmael is behind him in second and gaining with each round, it seems, at 69 points. Mike is right behind him at 62. Petro's not far behind at 56. Bars just trailing him at 51. Hair Razor is right behind at 50. Flack is not too far behind at 43. Tron Colby with 35, not too far back either. Doug Barrow is hot on his heels at 31. Type R right behind at 28. The Damn Cat is close behind with 26. Then Eagle is 12th at 22. UU and ATB are tied at 17 apiece. And our reserve driver Tap is bringing up the rear of registrants with points at 16. Normally, I would, at this point, show you the qualifying results. However, I was not able to get that screenshot. So, unfortunately, we are not able to go through it, and I don't remember the qualifying order off the top of my head. Actually, I can go through it now. So, unfortunately, you can see what I'm seeing. We will hop over to the live screen. So Petrol took pole, followed by Superboy. Ishmael was behind him, followed by Tap. Hair Razor, Bar, Mike, Doug, the Damn Cat, and Type R brought up the rear for this round. And without further ado, let's get the show on the road, shall we? And with that, the lights have gone green and the race is going on quickly. The drivers are all filing into single file line, as we can see here. Petrol leads us into turn 1. No contest from Supra. There's no really issues coming through. Nice and clean turn 1. So far, everyone's filed in nice and steady single file line. No real threats or battles at this particular moment, as everyone's just sorting out where they belong. And the Viper goes sideways coming out of that corner. That's rough. That's never something we want to see. That's gonna put him well off the pace. Not a good start to his day. So meanwhile, we have Petrol. He's already built up a small gap over Superboy, who's got Ishmael right behind him. Going into the hairpin, we see Ishmael look to the inside, but nothing doing there. We see Hair Razor and Tap going at it for 4th. Mike is lurking behind in 6th. Bar not too far back in 7th. Doug in 8th. Type R in 9th. And the Damn Cat got his work cut off from already. And already got some paint damage to the front of that Viper. He's breaking up the rear, coming back to the front. We have Petrol still in the way. We have Superboy just trying to keep Ishmael in the Audi at bay. The known Audi in the field. And it's done very well so far this series. He's won most of the races he's participated in. He missed the first round or 2. And that's the only reason why he is not in the lead points-wise right now. You have Tab behind her in 4th. Hair Razor looking at him on the inside. They're side by side. Yeah, they were. Hair Razor got the edge on him, pulled ahead. Tab pulled in just long enough to try to make use of some slipstream there, but I don't think it was enough. Hair Razor's got that solid inside line. Pushes Tab a little wide. Whoa, there's not something we want to see. Like, Tap and Mike got into some contact there that enables a bunch of people to gain a position. Tap gets going. Seems like the only person who didn't gain from that is the MCAT. Alright, coming back to the front, we have Petrol got a sizable gap over Superboy at this point. He's still trying to charge forward. We see Ishmael tucked in right behind. Hair Razors were still tucked in behind him. We have Mike, who not sure if he got into Tap or Tap got into him. Either way, Mike is a clear beneficiary of that exchange. Bar is not too far back, and Doug looks to be challenging for the position here. It peaked to the outside. Bar went a bit wide, almost enough to get on the grass, the gravel rather. Doug is staying close behind here. Got Type R, Tap, and Damn Cab. Going back to this. Doug and Bar side by side. But like Doug, it looked like Bar went wide, possibly from contact from Doug, so Doug didn't take the opportunity there like he could have. Now, so instead, they're set up to go side by side into the chicane. Doug moves wide, just tried to take this line cleanly. Bar took it very tightly, and for the time being is continuing to hold Doug behind him in 7th. Let's come back to the front. Got Petrol, big gap over Supra at this point. Ishmael's looking to the outside here. Trying to make the move to the outside, goes a bit wide, knocks the cone loose. And now Ishmael's got some threat from Razor, it looks like here. But already Ishmael's pulling away from the Porsche and closing in on the Ferrari of Superboy. They go way wide there. Ishmael's looking to the outside. Thinks better of it, tucks in behind. Moves to the inside of Supra here. There's a little bit of contact there. A little bit of contact. cause Super to go just a bit wide, and for the time being, he loses the position to Ishmael. But he's close enough where he can attack, try to reclaim the position. He continues to attack. Hellraiser's right there behind him still. Let's see what's going on with Doug and Bar. We saw they were tangoing for a bit there. We see Bar's got a little bit of a gap over Doug now. There's a pretty big gap already formed between Mike and Bar. So we already have basically, looks like 4 distinct groups. We have coming into lap 3, we have Petro kind of by himself. He's about 5 or 6 seconds ahead of Ishmael, who's got a little pack, who's leading the other pack of him, Superboy, Hellraiser, and Mike. It's like Hellraiser was looking to the inside there for a second in Superboy, but decides to end up just tucking behind and try to close in the gap there. Super goes defensive on the inside here. Just trying to keep Hellraiser behind him instead of working with Razor to try to catch back up to Ishmael. He's opting to defend, which is going to cause him to lose ground to Ishmael. He doesn't start working with the guy behind him instead of strictly defending here. And so this is a 4-car pack here. Then we have Doug, Bar, and then Type R and Tap they're on a mini little battle here. So we have Tap right here trying to get around Type R to reclaim the position after his little incident earlier. Looking to regain at least 1 position already from that. And back to the front, we see Ishmael. He's trying to close in Petro at this point. He's already starting to pull a gap over Superboy. He's got Razor and Mike right behind him. This 4-car pack is slowly turning into a 3-car one with Ishmael slowly building a gap over Super here. Looked like Razor looked to the inside of Superboy here. But again, Ops just tuck in behind. It's like Razor wants to work with Super right now. Super is just not getting the hint, it seems. Little squeeze there, and Super takes a harsh inside line over the grass. Again, just defending instead of working with the guy behind him. But for the time being, there is a small gap now between Supra and Razor. Coming back, we see Doug has gotten around Bar. Again, Bar reclaiming that position back. And we see behind them, Tap has gotten around Type R. And then Tap gets still trudging along, long ways back, pretty far back. So we have Petro exactly where he wants to be, all by himself, not needing to immediately worry about this guy who is got about 2.5 seconds ahead of Supra, who goes extremely wide through that corner. I don't remember these corner names. I do apologize about that. And Supra's got Razor and Mike just trailing right behind, just keeping touch. And Razor doesn't seem intent on battling Supra at this point. And Mike is just trying to keep touch with Razor at this point. And we have Doug and Bar. Doug is pulling away from Bar ever so slightly. But slowly but surely the gap between the two does seem to be growing. Likewise, Tap still got Type R right behind him. But the Mercedes may be able to get away from the BMW here. Meanwhile, Petrol's got about 6 seconds ahead of Ishmael at this point. He's got about 2 seconds ahead of Superboy. He's got at most a second between him and Razor, and maybe a quarter of a second between Razor and Mike. So this is basically a 3-car pack at this point, with Super leading the charge for these 3. They can see the leader here, but Right now, their immediate concern really should just be trying to keep close. Supra takes a defensive line through here. Again, not really showing any willingness to work with the guys behind him, preferring to instead try to go it on his own, which at the end of the day is always slower than working with somebody, which right now, this stage is the race. It really is more about working with the people around you than trying to get ahead of it. But if you can get ahead, obviously take advantage of the opportunity, but try to do it in a way that doesn't slow you and the other guy down. You know, we have Doug and Barr close behind each other here. Except Ferrari of Doug has been slowly building a gap over Barr up until that little fishtail by coming out of the corner there. You know, Tap has built a gap over, significant gap over Type R at this point. Now he's looking to close in on Barr and Doug ahead. Yeah, so right now, again, Harry's seems more like he's wanting to work with Supra. It's just Supra is not wanting to cooperate, which is ultimately slowing the three of them down instead of allowing them to catch up to Ishmael here in second, who's carrying still about 6 seconds. So standing pat gap-wise to Petrol. Razor actually seems to be going defensive against Mike here, but he may have also just been trying to get a little bit of clean air. Going into the chicane so he can get a little bit better turn in. You see Razor's right on the rear of Superboy coming out of the final corner, starting lap 7. You see Doug and Barr coming around the corner. They're still pretty close together. And we hear the Mercedes of Tap reeling these two in, slowly but surely. And then Type R and them kept bringing out the rear. Got Petrol, still a significant gap over Ishmael, but it may actually be closing a little bit. It may be down to about 5 seconds at this point. And that's about the same gap between Ishmael and now Razor's moved into third. Missed that little overtake. So now Razor's got the chance to try to reel in Ishmael if he can lead the charge back to Ishmael with him for him, Supra and Mike. Assuming that the three actually start working together. Meanwhile, we have Doug and Barr still close together. Barr may at this point just be trying to pressure Doug into a mistake rather than, because he's not really close enough to battle Doug at this point. He's close enough to where he can exert pressure though. Tap is not too far behind. Yeah, Ishmael has definitely closed the gap to Petrol at this point. That's down to about 4 seconds now. And Razor's got about a similar gap to Ishmael, who's slowly building a gap himself over Superboy. Now has Mike closing in on him. You know, Mike kind of got the short end of the stick through there. That allowed Superboy kind of pull ahead, wave a little bit, and close in on Air Razor here. Just try to stay close to that final podium spot. This 3-car pack is still pretty close together. Mike is slowly dropping back, it seems, but Barr and Doug are right on top of each other now. Again, Barr not really doesn't seem to be trying to get around Doug at this point. Like I said, he's just trying to be close enough. Apply that pressure. Both get a little slidey out of the corner there. Probably both on some hard compounds are struggling to grip, and we see Tap slowly reeling these two in. The gap is significantly smaller than it was a couple of laps ago. And Type R is losing ground to Tap, and the damn cat actually seems to be closing in on Type R. Slowly but surely, he's trying to claw his way back into it. It's just a long road ahead of him still. Back to the front, Petrol. It's got about still say maybe 4 to 5 second gap to Ishmael, who's got about 3 to 4 second gap over Hair Razor. You saw Superboy go very wide into the gravel. That'll cause him to fall back from Razor and let Mike close back in on him. Basically, all that ground he gained over that lap, gone. Unless Mike gets it wrong here. So you're so close, but they're slowly spreading apart. Slowly but surely. Meanwhile, Doug and Bar are still very close to each other. And not really actively battling, just one hoping the other makes a mistake. And then, woo! Tap's going for a ride. But he held on to it. Kept it pointing the right way at least, but he did get some time in the kitty litter out there. That's what caused him to lose a lot of the ground he had made up to the 2 cars in front of him. And that's actually going to let Type R close a little bit of ground on him. Alright, so we have Ishmael still here in second. He's slowly reeling in Petrol here. That's down to about a 3 to 4 second gap now. It was 6 seconds some time ago now. It's down to about 3 now, a little over 3.5. Then Razor's got about a 3.5, 4 second gap to Ishmael. He's got about a 2 second gap to Superboy, who's got Mike right on his heels. Coming through this corner here. Mike's really closing the gap up through here. He gets a good run. He could really get on through here. Super coming along this section here, leading up to the final chicane. It looks like he's just gonna. Ooh! It looks like Mike lost track of what he was doing there. Definitely holy cow moment. I think Mike might need to do set of underwear after that close call there. But he did manage to avoid contact with Supra, but he is now way behind. Is now threatening to be caught by Doug and Bar. And then for the time being at least, Mike's out of that pack for the final podium spot. This gap is down to about 2.5 to 3 seconds now between Petrol and 3 seconds between Ishmael and Petrol at this point. It's shrinking noticeably and growing between Hair Razor and Ishmael. Hair Razor's probably 5-ish seconds behind now. And Supra's got about 4, and he has a half-second penalty, which is going to cause the gap to grow ever so slightly between him and Razor, and allow Mike to close in a little bit on him. Mike's now got to settle back in and try to pull back ahead of Doug and Bar. These two need to keep pushing, otherwise this guy will eventually catch up to him and make it that a potential three-way battle at some point. Alright, we see Petrol has got Ishmael to worry about now. Ishmael is definitely within 3 seconds at this point. Slowly but surely he's been reeling him in. Yeah, that is at most 2 seconds between the two. Razor's about 5 seconds behind now. Razor is going to be about, Superboy, sorry, is going to be about 3 seconds behind him. Mike's about 6 seconds behind Supra. Doug's about a second or second and a half behind Mike. Got about half second to Bar. It's be about 9 seconds back to Tap. He's got about a long gap, hefty gap. By Type R, he's got a hefty gap still to the damn Cap, but this gap is noticeably smaller than it was much earlier. Come back to the front. This is going to be spicy here in a couple of laps. About a lap and a half. This gap's down to right at a second. Right at 2 seconds now. Sorry. And just slowly but surely, Ishmael is reeling in petrol. But the next couple of laps, it's going to be a battle for the lead. Hey, Razor's definitely lost touch to him. So at this point, Razor really just needs to focus on keeping this Ferrari behind him. Try to build a gap over him. Likewise, Super needs to continue trying to build a gap over Mike. We're 21 and a half minutes in. And Doug is still within sight of Mike. He's still got Bar right and he's filling up that rear view mirror of his. That was a look right behind him. The only thing he could see is the front bumper of that front green bumper of that Porsche behind him. And slowly reeling these two in again is this light blue Mercedes of Tap. And then Type R is just trying to not pay attention to the gap that's closing between him and the Viper behind him. Alright. So Petrol's still got some breathing room between him and Ishmael, but that breathing room is coming smaller and smaller with each corner. It was a healthy, probably 7 or 8 second gap a few laps ago. It's down to maybe 2 seconds now. With a second and a half and 2 seconds separating Petrol and Ishmael. Close to 7 seconds now separating Ishmael and Hair Razor. It's about 4 seconds separating Razor and Superboy, I think. And it's about the same between Super and Mike. Mike's got about 2 seconds behind him and Doug, who's actually got about a second on Bar at the moment. A simple mistake and that gap's gone again. Like that. Just like that. Because we can potentially see Bar close all of that up right now. Up. Bar going slightly around that corner might actually just let Doug keep a little bit of that gap. We have Tap, Type R, and then MCAT still going. Alright. It's coming into the end of lap 12. It's about 2 seconds. 3 seconds between Ishmael and Petrol. So there's a growing gap between Ishmael and Hair Razor. Growing gap between Superboy and Hair Razor. Shrinking gap, it seems, between Mike and Superboy. Doug is slowly losing touch to Mike. And Bar is sort of losing touch to Doug. That gap's grown between the two. Could be tire where we're getting deep in the stints. So far, I haven't seen anyone dive in the pits yet. Some of these drivers have got to be close at this point. See Ishmael and Petrol getting very close here. It's not close, but Ishmael is slowly reeling them in. Just a few tenths here and there, but those tenths add up. We're approaching the halfway mark here in a couple of laps. Right now, Razor's by his lonesome. This is kind of, at this stage, this is ideally where you want to be. You want to be kind of on your own. Not really battling right now. At this stage of the race, battling is definitely not ideal. You want to be ideally close enough to take advantage of a mistake, but really staying out of battle zone, if you will. Barr is really in the ideal spot. He's close enough to take advantage of a big mistake of Doug if he makes one, but he's not so close as to really be pressuring himself to stay close. So that makes sense. Because when you're battling, or you're trying to apply pressure to the guy in front of you, if you're not careful, that same pressure can backfire on you. Alright, we see Mercedes of Petrol still holding the lead here. He's been in the lead from the get-go, and he has not been challenged at any point so far. But Ishmael is close enough to where, especially if Petrol makes a mistake, that will change. It's about a second and a half. 2 seconds, somewhere in that range time frame right now between the two. And Razor is pretty big gap behind. Like I said, he's at this point just trying to get to the end of this stint, because we still have everyone needing to go through pits. Doug and Barr still pretty close. Barr again staying close enough to take advantage of a mistake, but not so close that where he's potentially putting himself at risk, or he's not really being affected by dirty air. But if Doug makes a mistake, Barr can close the gap. And Tap is slowly reeling these two in himself. He's kind of like Ishmael and Petrol up here. It's a 10th here, a 10th there, that Tap is closing in on Barr and Doug. Meanwhile, Ishmael is closing a 10th here, a 10th there over Petrol. This gap is very slowly but very surely dropping, and the gap is slowly growing right at the moment. Slowly but surely between Ishmael and Razor, and the gap is growing a little bit over Superboy and Tap and Razor, and Tap looks to be the first driver to enter the pits. Yeah, I think when he comes out, it's entirely possible that he will come out right in front of Type R, and the damn cat's slowly reeling him in. He's almost where he can actually see the BMW at this point, but he's got a half-second penalty, which is going to hurt his chances, his feelings a little bit. Then we're going to come back to the front, because this is really shaping up to become interesting here soon. Like I keep saying, this gap right here is very close. It's very close. It's becoming shorter and shorter every lap. At this point, I'd say it's under 2 seconds. It may not be a second and a half, but it's like 1.7, 1.8 seconds at this point. Definitely close enough that Petrol should start worrying a little bit, depending on when he's going to pit versus Ishmael. And we know Ishmael tends to run very deep on his stints, especially if right now he seems like he can keep going there. I'll keep going. Everyone's so far the only person to pit is Tap. Super just sliding out of the chicane like that. That's going to destroy his tires quickly. And Mike is reeling him in. Mike is right there behind him and behind Superboy. within maybe 2 seconds at most. And we see Bars dove into the pits. Second man into the pits. And like I said earlier, Tap came out of pits right in front of Type R. There's not a big gap there. Just like there's not a big gap here. This gap is slowly collapsing. Eventually, Ishmael's going to be close enough to where on these straights, he might be able to use special slipstream to further close in that gap. And then Razor's actually not that far behind. There's a big mistake, he can take advantage of it, but the way these two drive, I don't expect either of them to make that severe of a mistake. At this point, I do think Petrol has stepped it up a little bit, trying to keep ahead of this guy. But does that coming at the expense of his fuel and tire strategy? See, we have Supra, Mike closing in on him. We now have Doug by himself. For the first time in several laps, probably a significant portion of the race, Doug is kind of in no man's land. He's kind of on his own. He actually doesn't have anyone trying to apply pressure. You have Bar way back, and we do see Petrol, Ishmael, Razor diving into pits, Super going into pits. Mike is going to take another lap. So it looks like Mike is going to try to lead at least one lap. You see Doug going into the pits. Bar's already pit. I'm thinking Bar will probably come out right behind Doug. Tap's not too far behind. He's slowly reeling Bar in. He's pulling a gap over Type R. And the damn cat is still going. He's still reeling in the BMW in front of him. That gap's nowhere near as big as it was a few laps ago. So Mike's coming around. We see Petrol's came out. Ishmael is just as far behind him as he was before. Razor just came out of pits. Super also just came out of pits. Doug is coming out of pits now, and just in time, like I said, Doug is coming out right in front of Bar. So Doug had the one lap of before. Bar is right there again. We see the damn cat diving into the pits now, holding on to a half-second penalty in the process. Alright, so we have Mike in the lead at the moment, but once he dives into pits, we know that's going to fall back to Petrol and Ishmael. Depending on if he's able to actually push, Mike might actually be able to pit and come out ahead of Razor and or Supra if he's able to, get there quickly, get out of there cleanly, and get out cleanly. He might come out in striking distance of Razor and Superboy. Meanwhile, Petrol and Ishmael, Ishmael just 10th here, 10th there. And we see Mike has indeed popped into the pits. Did he go deep enough? Will his pit stop be quick enough? So Petrol and Ishmael have gone by. Mike is just now pulling into the box. Here Razor's coming around. So Razor's going to reclaim third. Supra is going to reclaim fourth. And Mike is probably going to come out and be smack dab under attack by Doug coming into turn one. Yeah, Doug is going to close in on him coming into turn one, but he's still got a few second gaps, so he's safe for the time being. Tap coming along, Type R coming along, and the damn Cat with a half-second penalty. And the BMW of Type R is now dove into the pits. Coming back to the front. This should be everyone pit stop complete. And Ishmael is where Petrol doesn't want him to be. He is close enough to where, well, he's potentially close enough to begin to take advantage of slipstream from Petrol, which is not good for him because that means that Ishmael is going to close in on him that much quicker. But if he's currently just on the edge. Petrol's got to start getting better exits out of corners if he wants to stay ahead of this guy. He wants to stay out of his clutches enough from under attack. But so far it's still 10th by 10th, corner by corner, where Ishmael is reeling Petrol in. Razor's still basically by himself. Superboy is not too far behind. Mike is not far behind him. Doug is very close to Mike here. This could turn into a spicy battle if these three continue to start working together to close in on the car in front. Tap here in 8th. He's not closing as much as he was earlier. He's starting to actually lose touch to Bar a little bit. Meanwhile, we have Type R and the damn Cat. That gap is very small now, much smaller. It's almost single-digit seconds between the two. Meanwhile, this gap between Petrol and Ishmael might be just over a second now. Ishmael is definitely there. At this point, Ishmael is definitely going to be a dominating feature in the rearview mirror of Petrol. So that means Petrol, if he wants to stay ahead of this guy, he's got 23 more minutes to try to keep ahead of this guy. And so far it's taken him a long time to get there, but he's almost there. 10th here, 10th there. Those 10ths add up. Razor's got a significant gap between him and Ishmael at the moment. Supra's got him in his sights. He's closing in, it seems. Then you have Mike, Doug, and Bar. These three are very close. They work together and close in on Superboy up there. Whether they do or not is another story. And we're starting to approach the end stage of the race here. Everyone's starting to dial it in, try to reel in the guy in front. For some people, that's a lot more work than others. Tap's still trying to. I think he is still trying to close in on Bar. It's just he is not having much success with, especially since he's on his own, and Bar has got the toe of Mike and Bar, and Doug has actually gotten around Mike here. We need to check on the front here to keep an eye on this. This is going to get spicy once Ishmael finishes reeling in Petrol. This can become a battle here soon as well. Super does seem to be closing in a little bit on Hair Razor here. Meanwhile, Doug has got Mike and Bar right behind him. Two Porsches can easily work together to stay with Doug. But right now, the calculus may not decide that's a good idea. You have Tap kind of by himself. You have the BMW of Type R and the Viper of the damn Cat closing in, reeling him in. And they got those two need to be watchful in their review, because this battle is coming up behind them. It's taken Ishmael all race to this point to close in that massive gap that Petrol was able to build early. It's taken them all race to reel him in. And now he's there. That Audi of Ishmael is now a dominating feature in Petrol's rearview mirror. It's not quite the only thing there, but it's just about the only thing there. The gap is definitely under a second now. At what point does Petrol start defending? Right now, Ishmael is far enough behind where Petrol shouldn't need the defensive. But he's got to start nailing his exits. He's got to start being perfect to beat the machine that is Ishmael behind him. Ishmael, I think, has only finished outside of the first twice in the races that he has raced in this series. There's only 2 races I can remember that Ishmael did not win. And this race has been probably the most solid of a march from Ishmael we've seen all season. Just cold, just slowly, methodically, calculatingly reeling in Petrol. Nailing his apexes, nailing his exits. The little bobbles and wobbles by Petrol, slowly allowing the Audi to close in. The Mercedes should have the advantage here, but it's the Audi that is showing it's some dominance. Ishmael looking at the inside. He is looking to take the lead now. He is now fighting for it. That Mercedes should be able to out-drag the Audi. The main advantage of the Audi at this point is its handling. The Audi is able to take these corners just a little bit quicker than the Mercedes. The Mercedes is able to will be able to out-drag on the straights, or at least it should be able to. The first charge by Ishmael failed. Petrol, for the moment, gets to fight for a few more corners. Gets to breathe for a couple of corners. Ishmael's looking to come in for the attack again. Slowly, methodically, trying to wear down the defensive Petrol. That is a massive mistake by Petrol, and that's going to gift the lead to Ishmael. Petrol cracked under the pressure. That mistake was all Petrol, succumbing to the pressure from Ishmael. How does Petrol respond? Can he respond? Petrol tried to take a very tight inside line. It kind of backfired. It's got some wheel spin. Now he's going to try to take that wide line through this set of corners. He should be able to close in on the Audi here. He's got the power advantage. The Audi has the handling advantage, the cornering advantage. far, advantage Audi. Ishmael seems to be pulling a small gap over Petrol here. 15 minutes to go. Can Petrol respond? Not like that, he's not. That still bobbles and wobbles. 10th here, 10th there. That was how the Audi of Ishmael caught up to him. Contact between the two. Petrol outbraked himself there, got into the rear of Ishmael. Backs off, lets him get back up to speed, and they go to fight again. Super, we've seen, has gotten around Hair Razor in the meantime. Super is wanting to join this battle between these two, and we see they are still at it. Like I said, the Mercedes has the power advantage. It can out-drag this Audi down the straight. Mercedes, but it's just not able to get it done this time. The Audi just got the better exit. But this battling between the two is exactly what these two need. So long as they don't start battling or spinning. See Doug, Barr, they've both got around Mike, something happened to Mike. He's fallen back far behind. Tap is by his lonesome, and we have the Damn Cat and Type R fighting for not last here. Who wins this battle? We'll have to keep tabs on it. Meanwhile, back in the front, Ishmael currently has the lead, but the Mercedes is not out of it. The Mercedes can respond, just as the driver able to. Petrol gets the better run of the S's. But is it enough? So far not. So far the answer is no. The Mercedes should be able to close in over here on the straight. He has a slipstream. Just needs to not outbrake himself. Very solid defensive line by Ishmael. And Petrol's got a penalty. That's not what he needs. So now Petrol has got to stay tight. Stay as tight as possible to that Audi. He needs to be glued to the rear bumper of the Audi till we get to the penalty zone. These two battling will enable this guy to get back into the picture. The only question is, will he be able to close in and take advantage? And Hair Razor isn't quite out of it yet himself. He can easily close back in and make it a battle for third for that final podium spot. Doug and Barr close together. They're too far back, I think, to make a battle for the podium. Should there be a mistake made there? We have Mike and Tap falling back from the cars in front. And we have the Damn Cat and the Type R battling for 9th and 10th. Neither one of these wants to be the last car to cross the finish line. Damn Cat has taken all race to regain a position from his earlier mishap. He didn't give up. Now here he is fighting for 9th, trying to hold on to 9th from the superior handling BMW, much like the battle for first. One of the cars is much better in a straight line than the other. The other is just simply a much better handling machine. But right now the roles are reversed. At the front of the pack, the cornering machine is winning the battle. The rear of the pack, the power machine is winning the battle so far. But the race is not over. 10 minutes to go. Mercedes is still straight back. But, as I've said once before already, once you give this guy a gap, it is difficult to close them back in. And that gap is growing, all because of Petrol's penalty. And just like he closed the gap, a 10th here, a 10th there, corner by corner, he can now grow the gap between him and second, a 10th here, a 10th there, corner by corner. Supra's not out of the fight. He can, if he can dial it in, he can close in on these two. He can make it a battle for the podium positions, which is exactly what this guy needs. If these three close out together and make it a three-way battle, that enables Razor to join the battle, and it becomes four-way. But right now, Ishmael's in control. As long as he maintains consistency, as continues to be able to gain a 10th here, 10th there, each corner, the gap between these two will slowly grow. And it will quickly and will eventually become out of reach for the Mercedes. And if Petrol keeps doing that, he's going to fall to clutches of the Ferrari behind him. And will no longer be able to worry about trying to reclaim ground on the Audi in front. And we do have to wonder, is tire wear a concern for the Mercedes? He does seem to be struggling with handling a little bit, getting slideways and fishtailing around some of these corners. The same with that Ferrari behind him. Of course, if Razor is close enough to where something can happen if a mistake is made. And likewise with Doug, if Razor makes a mistake, he can be there. Mars not too far behind, but he does seem to be struggling with getting that Porsche around some of these corners. Same with Mike. Taps trying to close into Mike in front of him, and the damn cat's trying to pull away from this BMW, but the BMW is trying to stay close. The BMW is a much better handling machine than the Viper in front of him. Can Type R respond? Can Type R stay close to the damn cat? Can he keep it close? Can he fight back and get that position back? Coming back to the front. Again, we want to see if Petrol can close the gap back between him and Ishmael. But looks like Ishmael is doing what he's done the entire race. Be just that much faster. A 10th of a second here, 10th of a second there. Corner by corner. Pulling away, saying as he closed the gap over the entire race. Over the remaining 6 minutes, this guy is set to pull away, little by little, corner by corner. And this guy has not given up. He's doing everything he can to close back in on the Mercedes in front of him. He is running out of time, 5.5 minutes to go. And the gap is definitely smaller than it was earlier. If he continues this pace, he'll be there in a couple of laps. The problem, he only has a couple of laps to go. Same with Razor, the gap's growing between the Ferrari and this Porsche. But this Ferrari does seem to be slowly reeling Razor in. but it may be too little, too late. Porsche Bars wanted to close in on the Ferrari of Doug, but he's losing ground, as he may want to start worrying about trying to keep the Porsche of Mike behind him. Mercedes of Tap at this point just needs to keep it clean and keep it steady, and he's got a solid 8th place finish. An early mishap that he was really never able to recover from, but he was never the last place, and never at risk of being last. Meanwhile, the damn cat and Type R are battling to not be last, to be the guy who does not finish last. Right now, the damn cat and the Viper has the advantage, but Type R is not out of it yet. Can he keep close to the Viper? Can he reel it back in? He has just under 4 minutes remaining. That's 2 to 3 more laps, depending on exact pace per lap. Meanwhile, Ishmael still can see the Mercedes behind him, but that Mercedes is ever so slowly getting smaller and smaller in the rear view. And unfortunately for the Mercedes, the Ferrari of Superboy is slowly but surely getting larger in his rear view, as the black and red Ferrari is closing in on the purple and blue Mercedes. And the gap between Ferrari and Porsche, the Ferrari Superboy and Hair Razor, is growing. And the gap between Razor and the Ferrari of Doug is shrinking. But it may be shrinking too slowly for Doug to be able to do anything with it. And we see Mike has gotten around Barr. Something must have happened with Barr. He does, like I noted earlier, Barr does seem to be struggling with this car at the moment. Making a lot of mistakes, a lot of sliding, a lot of slipping. Meanwhile, the Mercedes of Tap just keeping it tidy at this point. Meanwhile, the stealth black Viper of the damn cat still got that BMW right behind him, coming in with maybe 1 to go. These two might get 1 more lap. Otherwise, this is the final lap. If Type R is going to do something, he needs to treat this like it's the final lap. He needs to close in and get on the rear bumper of that Viper. Through this section, this is where the Viper should be weakest. This is where he should be closing in. Try to pressure the Viper into a mistake. Meanwhile, back up front, we have Ishmael. Still has Petrol behind him. Petrol is still close enough to take advantage of a mistake, but at this point, that's what Petrol is having to pray for. Petrol only has a chance at this point if the Audi of Ishmael makes a mistake. Superboy is closing in. If they have 1 more lap, then this becomes a battle for second place between the Mercedes and Ferrari. And if they're not careful, Porsche and Ferrari of Doug and Hair Razor can join the one to fun if they're not careful and they make a mistake. Well, Mike and Barr are slowly losing touch to Mike. Which is what Mike needs to have a solid 6th place finish. Tap is actually really in Barr, but too little too late, really. We see the damn cat has got a gap over Type R, who definitely getting it wrong there. So this is the final lap. As you see, Ishmael carries the win. He's going to get the win here. Ishmael does finish first. Petrol in second. Superboy in third. Another lap, and that would have been another battle. Okay, Razor finishes fourth. Doug in fifth. Mike is gonna, unless he really botches it here for the next corner, Mike has got sixth place in the bag. Solid finish for this guy here. A couple of mistakes kind of took him out of the battle for the front, but still in the end, solid race for the guy. Bar did well as well. And then Tap had an incident very early on, recovered nicely in the end. To recap the final results, we have Ishmael with a win, Petrol in second, 3 seconds behind, about a second and a half behind him is Superboy, who took the fastest lap at the end of it. Fourth place we have Razor, fifth place we have Doug, sixth place is Mike, seventh Bar, eighth Tap, ninth the Damp Cat just barely managed to stay ahead of Type R. Something happened to him in the final chicane, it looked like, because that's where the big gap formed, and we saw Type R trying to redoing the track as we were rechecking on the battle for the lead. And Type R does bring up the rear. This was a fun little battle, fun little race. Like I said, in 2 weeks' time, the next race will be in Fuji. I hope you enjoy this. Appreciate it if you leave a like, if you share, and if you follow if you haven't already. And we hope to catch y'all next time. Until then.